Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ha, Rocha, Chodash, Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS and their elders. Double honors to my elder, Aharawan Ban Yasharala of the Lions Den Camp, here in Jacksonville, Florida. Shalom to the sincere Akim, pushing his truth and sincerity around the four corners of this earth. Nakar Khorab Ban Yasharala, coming out of the Lions Den Camp of Yasharala here in Jacksonville, Florida. Now today I'll be coming out a lesson on this article, and it says here, it says essential isn't a strong enough word. Loss of foreign workers begins to bite U.S. economy. So because of the fact that the president of, or should I say the king of Babylon, is deporting Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom, i.e. The Haitians and stuff like that, Levi, tribe of Levi. But nonetheless, those who do the reaping downs of Esau's fields, these the bloody man's fields, the wicked man's fields, his harvest, is Northern Kingdom. Mainly Issachar, almost exclusively, but there are other Northern Kingdom of tribes, of the Northern Kingdom that do this kind of work. But nonetheless, it's starting to hurt Babylon America. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm not going to read all of this article because it kind of gets in the jargon, but I'm going to read a good little bit of it though. It says President Trump's crackdown on immigration is starting to ripple across the U.S. economy, and that's what's happening. It's starting to affect Babylon America and its economy. It says from small farms in California to meat packing facilities in Nebraska to corporate giants like Disney. Businesses are scrambling to replace workers after recent administration actions have taken immigrants, Northern Kingdoms, which they are not immigrants, they actually are the natives of this land. Well, let's continue. Have taken immigrants, both illegal, so like both legal and illegal, out of the labor force, including several 100,000 people who had been given temporary work permits under Joe Biden. Salakia. Continuing. It says that's because foreign workers or their relatives have become critical in labor sectors, and that's what happened. This devil, he lazy. He want to try to put that stigma on Jake, Southern Kingdom in particular, but it's really this devil that's lazy and don't want to do things. This is why you think when it comes down to the workforce, they try to find the highest position possible doing the less amount of work. But let's continue. But nonetheless, again, the fact that Jake has become extremely critical in these labor sectors, it is now destroying this devil. He is destroying himself. And this is all according to the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, that this devil would eventually bring destruction unto himself. But let's continue. It says essential is not a strong enough word. Matt Teagarden, his last name Teagarden. Yeah, but anyways, head of the Livestock Association in Kansas. It says, that's just him talking. Let's just get to the article. It says the emerging reports, Salakia, are the first signs of what economists and labor market experts had warned would result from Trump's signature campaign issue, which has so far included revoking temporary legal status for several 100,000 people who have been allowed to live and work in the U.S. in recent years without gaining citizenship. And they allowed them to work. So now you deporting them, you getting rid of them. Guess what? You're basically hollowing out your operations, your daily operations. But let's continue. It says here, daily operations have been thrown into question, or more like thrown into turmoil, for cattle ranchers in Teagarden's organization, because employees have become reliant on workers who, even if not directly threatened by administration's actions or the administration's actions, may be related to people who are, and that's just true. You ain't finna have one Northern Kingdom whether they be from Ephraim to Issachar. You ain't finna have just one of them and then they working there but they don't got no family. No, they here as a unit. They here together. So if you deport one, you might be deporting somebody's uncle, somebody's father, grandfather, uncle, brother, sister, mom, whatever. But let's continue. I'm gonna just go on because that's him talking again. It says Trump has said he was working on addressing labor shortages in agriculture, telling supporters at a rally in Iowa on Thursday he wants to work with the farmers even if he ends up alienating serious radical right people who want to curb immigration. It's political jargon right here. But nonetheless, just this statement alone in this report or article, it shows that no matter what this devil does, no matter what kind of plans, it's destroying them. It's taking down Babylon America. Let's continue. And once it goes down, it's never ever going to rise again. But this also goes into the vintage failing as well. You know, you don't have Issachar, you don't have Jake. When I say Jake, I'm talking about Jake period, all 12 tribes. You don't got Jake working, guess what? This devil has built his whole economy and everything around Jake working. So if you start to get rid of your workers, guess what? Eventually that business is going to fail. And we see that business failing now. Let's continue. It says Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins on Tuesday suggested Medicaid participants who did not meet or who don't meet the work requirements passed in Republicans' mega bill could supplement labor shortages in the agriculture industry. And the administration has taken some incremental actions intended to address the concerns over the shortage of foreign workers, including creating an Office of Immigration Policy within the Department of Labor. It says the White House has touted the success of its immigration policies, arguing that they have led to a historical low border crossing and the prioritization of U.S. citizen workers. The DOS, said it arrested over 6,000 people crossing the U.S.-Mexican border illegally in June, among the lowest monthly border crossing figures in decades. Yeah, it says here, but let's continue. It says the administration exacerbated the situation on Monday, meaning made it worse, revoking legal status for approximately 76,000 people from Honduras and Nicaragua, eliminating their work authorizations. It had previously done so for Haitians, Afghans, Venezuelans, and Cameroonians. Some large corporations that rely on foreign workers, including those with protected status, admitted under other programs, have already felt the impacts. Disney reported reportedly began cutting workers with temporary legal status, and Walmart took a similar step last month. Foreign workers at Amazon have reported similar notices. So see, guess what? You messing up. This devil is messing up everything. But the Lord has taken wisdom out of the mount of Edom. He's made these devils stupid. That's why they're doing this. And this is the dumbest thing ever. But let's continue. Walmart and Amazon declined to comment. Disney did not respond for a comment either. This is mass arrest of people without legal status have sent they chill through several. Okay, but let's continue. But as you see, the fact that this devil is deporting Jake and getting Jake out of the sharecropping, that's just another fancy word for slavery. But agricultural work, you getting rid of Jake, regardless if he got a legal status or not, or a work visa or not. You getting rid of the people that's making your economy move. But nonetheless, that is also going to go into the vintage failing, because there are not going to be any workers. So guess what? Crops are not going to be harvested because there's no one to harvest them. And guess what? That's going to go into prices soaring at the shelves because there are just not enough workers to process everything. And it's going to cause a famine ultimately down the road. And we're seeing the beginning stages of it now. This is Isaiah chapter 32. Verse, I'm going to just start at verse 9 just to complete the thought. But my point is verse 10. It says, rise up, ye women that are at ease, hear my voice, ye careless daughters, give ear to my speech. And a lot of these women, Jake women in particular, especially Southern Kingdom, but you got a lot of Northern Kingdom too as well, that rely on Medicaid, that rely on SNAP's benefits. Well, the Lord says rise up, because a lot of these women are at rest and a lot of them are careless. I mean, they don't have a care in the world because they're like, oh, I can do this, I can get this. But as we've seen as of late, certain media platforms with these women getting on there talking trash or angry, voicing their grievances, because their food stamps have been cut down or they've just been totally cut off, revoked. Verse 10, it says, many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women, for the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. So it's going to be many days. It says, ye shall be troubled. So, and at this point, it's across the board. But women are going to be more affected by it because you got a lot of single households with women with children and no head, no man, no husband. And they rely on the government. Well, now that the government is getting rid of the workers that make the economy go around, guess what? They're going to be troubled many days. And also men that may need to rely on. It's going to cause a problem with men as well. That may work or get some kind of money on the side, but for as far as like food and amenities, that's helping. But nonetheless, with this devil making all these cutbacks and sending Jake away, it's going to cause problems. And this is going to cause the vintage to fail. This is going to cause food not to get shipped. It's going to cause things to not happen. It's going to cause higher prices at the store, at the register or the retail store, the grocery store, or whatever. But nonetheless, this is going to cause a problem for a lot of people here in Babylon, America, women in particular. They're going to be hit the hardest because they've bought into the ideology of this place, and you know what that ideology is. But let's continue. Again, it says, for the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. So they're not going to be able to get things. Things are not going to happen as they usually would happen now. Well, you had Jake out there, Northern Kingdom, picking the strawberries, the grapes, the whatever. You got working in the meat processing plants, butchering the animals. You ain't gonna have that no more. That's gonna cause the vintage, these things to fail. It's gonna cause an uproar. It's going to cause, we'll say, the comfort that people have gotten used to here in Babylon, America in today's times. That's going to fail. It's going to become, I say, useless. But let's continue. This my last point. Let's go to second address, because people still think that because they could go to the store right now, even though things are happening, they can still go to the store and buy a carton of eggs or a gallon of milk or whatever it is for a relatively cheap price. That's going to go up. But because they can do that, people still think everything is good. This is second Esdras. Let's see. 16. Let's see. I'm going to start at verse 19. It says, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent for scourges of amendment. So these things are sent for scourges of amendment, for correction. And most times when you need correction, guess what? That means you was wrong or you was in error. But these things are sent for correction. famine, plagues, sicknesses, illnesses, ailments, and tribulation, trying times, and anguish. These things are sent for amendment, for correction. It says, but for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourge. So though these things are going to be happening here in Babylon, America, you're still going to have a lot of people, and 2/3 of our people in particular, that's not going to turn from their wickedness. Though these things are happening, they're going to continue living contrary to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. They're not going to always be mindful of the correction. They're not going to be mindful that it is the Heavenly Father bringing this correction and allowing this correction to come upon them through famine and essential workers, loss of workers, Jake workers, Northern Kingdom workers. That's going to cause this economy to go down. Because Southern Kingdom, Judah in particular, they ain't finna get back out there in no fields and be picking none of that. It's going to be a problem. Guess what? That's going to lead to something else even more dangerous. But let's continue. My last point. It says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in a good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. So as I stated before, a lot of people, especially our people in particular, but people here in Babylon, these other nations, these other heathen nations, they think because victuals are still relatively cheap that they good, that everything ain't really went nowhere. Prices done went up a little bit, but they're like, well, it's still relatively cheap. I could still like they just think they could still go and buy a loaf of bread for about $3. It's good, but they're in for a rude awakening. And they think they still in pretty much relatively good case. But even then, evils are still growing upon the earth. The sword, just judgment, famine, a lack of food, water, and bread. And great confusion is still coming on the earth. It's still happening. It's becoming more evident or more prevalent. So, yeah. You know what? Verse 22, and then I'm going to end it. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth, Salakia, shall perish of famine, and the others shall escape the hunger. And others that escape the hunger, Salakia, shall the sword destroy. So, for many people that dwell on this earth, mainly and here in Babylon, America, they're going to perish of famine. It's going to be a lack of food, lack of resources, lack of nutrients. And those that escape the hunger, let's say they may find some kind of way to satiate themselves or to eat and be nourished. Guess what? They're still going to be destroyed by what? The sword. That's the Lord's wrath. His weapons of indignation. So yeah, this is destroying Babylon, America, getting rid of the ones who built it and who caused it to go forward. But this is all the doing of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And ultimately, it will be taken down by the Lord's weapons of indignation. But the vintage is going to fail. With that, Shalom.